Hello, I am Deb Coviello, the Drop-In CEO, and I am grateful as always that you've dropped in for another episode of the podcast where week after week I just find these amazing leaders, tremendous insights, and I do hope they inspire you. And if you like this episode, and I know you will, please subscribe, tell at least one person about this amazing resource so we can elevate them. And just know I put out these resources, they have these amazing guests because I truly care about the C suite leader of today and of tomorrow so that they can navigate their challenges with confidence. And just a brief introduction, my guest this week is Mark Fellin, who leads the quality engineering, compliance, safety, and product care and is the global quality team for Melissa and Doug, a toy company. And that's why I was so excited to bring him on. He is focused on enhancing the consumer experience with improved product performance, compliance, service, and reliability. These are so important to this field, as well as implementing measures to continue to protect product integrity. We're going to get into his bio and his background a little bit more, but Mark, welcome to the show.
Deb, thanks so much for having me. What an honor, and you've had some really amazing guests on here in the past, and I'm just so delighted to be part of that list now. So really looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, and thank you so much. And just for my listeners, again, you know me, I am an avid networker. I will throw the invites out there to quality professionals, C-suite leaders, because hey, I just want to get to know them. And when Mark said yes, and we got to know each other, I was like, oh, a toy company. I have never interviewed anybody from a toy company, but along the way, Mark has just had some amazing leadership insights I wanted to bring to you. But I am going to yield the floor to you a little bit, maybe just share a bit about yourself personally and about your career with my audience.
Yeah, Deb. So I've been very fortunate in my career, but it's always started and ended with just a really great support network. And when I was young, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I went to school in DC and said I wanted to one day run for Congress, uh, and that quickly shifted as I got into things. But I was fortunate enough to work in the Senate, and I worked on the Consumer Product Safety Improvement Act when I was there. And then I met a friend in grad school who introduced me to someone at the Consumer Product Safety Commission. I was fortunate enough to get a job there. Then from that job, I got offered a role with the Juvenile Products Manufacturers Association, which is all the wonderful companies that make baby products. And at this point in my career, my wife and I had just had our first child, and so to work for the baby industry at that time was really a special experience. Sitting in those meetings, watching how these amazing professionals make products for children was just special. And then Amazon called me and asked if I'd be interested in moving out to Seattle to lead their direct imports program. And so my wife and I said, let's take a chance. Behind every great leader is an even greater board of directors behind them, and she's by far the chairman of my board. And she said to me, if we don't take this opportunity, you're going to regret it. And she was absolutely right. And so we had an amazing 5 years in Seattle, and then they asked me if I'd be interested in sort of heading up all product safety communications for Amazon. So I came back to DC and did some more work there in the public safety sector, working with nonprofits and NGOs, talking about the great safety work that Amazon does. And then Melissa and Doug called and said, do you want to potentially be our chief quality officer? And from the moment I started interviewing with that company, it just felt right. I knew that I was ready for a change. I wanted something that would scare me a little bit and stretch me, and that was definitely it. And to work for a toy company, like you said, Deb, I have two young boys, and every day it's something special getting to play with toys and bring joy to children and imagination. So I've been very blessed in my career to get where I am today, but it's certainly been because a lot of people have taken chances on me throughout the years.
Such a tremendous story. And I just noticed on LinkedIn about a month ago, you posted about bring your child to work. And there's
Yeah.
this great picture of you and your son. What did he think about what daddy does?
I mean, my kids, it's amazing. They've gotten to see. the different roles that I had when I was at Amazon. We had Tucker, and I remember one day I took him to work, and it was Bring Your Kid to Work Day there, and there was toys and there was concerts, and so for him, he's like, all Dad does is play with toys all day. And then this past time when I took them to Connecticut, we just did a whole employee appreciation video, and they asked what my favorite day has been in my role here, and it was that, to be able to take my kids, have that special experience, get them to play with products, get them to watch their joy. I mean, it's really neat, and they're at an age where they love our products, and that's really special. So I get to bring home toys, and they get to play with them, and working for a toy company too. Um, they want me to be a dad. There's a balance act. They want me to bring the toys home and to play. And obviously we take ourselves seriously in some ways, but at the end of the day, we're making toys that bring joy to children. And to be a father and get to do that, that's a pretty amazing thing.
When you speak, you use the word joy through and through. And when I hear people talk, oh, we got a great culture, we've got great values, we do these great things for the community, I don't hear too many people use the word joy. This is a very special experience to hear somebody say you bring joy and you're also enjoying what you do. Joy is so pivotal or
Mm.
central to how you
Yeah.
describe your experience.
Hmm.
Amazing.
Absolutely, but it starts and ends with what the mission of the company is.
And
It's seeing the impossible. It's seeing the wonder. It's that sort of free play. And even before I ever interviewed at Melissa and Doug, we were a Melissa and Doug family. And watching my boys just get to be creative. That's really a pretty special thing.
and we forget about this. And then, as we grow out of our childhood and move into society, sometimes play at work, this is serious stuff. You got to check your
Yeah.
playfulness and your creativity at the door, unless you're fortunate enough to go into a creative pursuit.
Uh,
And I find so many adults miss out on that creative element and find themselves lost.
uh,
And then we find it again when, we're fortunate enough to have young ones in our lives. And
uh,
sometimes I
uh,
think we're missing out on just being playful in our lives.
Oh, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. My wife often tells people when they ask what I do, she's like, he's just Tom Hanks and big. That's what he does. He just gets to go and play with the toys all day, which is really pretty fun.
So, for those of you who might catch this also on my YouTube video, you'll see I'm sorry, Mark in this amazing space right now. You got a giraffe in the background. Tell me about the giraffe.
Yeah. So the giraffe is actually one of Melissa and Doug. They are two actual people. It was one of her sort of original sort of designs and concepts, and I just love it. The one behind me, that's named Waffles. Brooks, my 4-year-old, named him. So Waffles is here. Pancakes is the one in the office, and downstairs we have a giant green dinosaur named Potato. So my kids name all the giraffes that are in our house, which is fun. But the giraffe gets far more comments than I ever do. More people are interested in the giraffe.
No, it's amazing. Again, this is just such a fun conversation. But let me just get back a little bit to your career because it's
Yeah,
so unique because you started out in politics, then public
yeah,
relations, and then into compliance. And I know technically, you've explained I went from here to here to here, but how does it all play together? It must tie together in some way.
yeah. I grew up in a small coal mining town in northeastern Pennsylvania, and I credit a lot of who I am to my parents. You're sort of you don't come with a guidebook, but you have this community around you. And my dad for the longest time was the family doctor and did house calls up until the day he retired. And I grew up in an environment where people didn't have a bad word to say about my father, and that was always something that I at least try to ground myself um, in my adulthood, and as I've grown throughout my career. And we get places, Deb, because people take chances on us. And I was very, very fortunate early in my career to have some really great mentors. And when I was in DC, one of my first internships in college was working at the White House, and I had a gentleman who said to me, Mark, I'm taking a chance on you. When you have an opportunity to take a chance on somebody else, you do the same. And I think it's just being grounded in that and showing up and hustling. And people know the difference between when you're in it genuinely interested in people versus when you're in it for what you can do for them. I was making no money on the hill when I started. I just loved the job, and I loved what I did. And there's a funny story about how I got the first job I had. I was giving tours at the Capitol building for a senator from North Carolina, and people would ask me, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I'd love to work for the senator, but I'm not from North Carolina, so I don't think I'll get a job. And I said, but you know what? Write letters, tell him you got the best tour ever, and he should hire me. So it's the last day of my job there. I just graduated from college, and he said, Mark, once a member of our team, always a member of the team. Thanks, Senator. Great, great, great. So walking out the door, and he says, hey, I got all these letters from these kids saying I should give you a job, so you want to come work for me? And of course, it was just shock. And then started working on some issues. Met a friend in grad school. She connected me with someone else. And the JPMA story is I joke with the guy to this day who hired me. I was 26 years old at the time, and he gave me his keys to his DC office, and he said, "Go ahead and build it." And I say to him to this day, like, "What did you see?" He's like, "I just saw a guy that had some potential that needed someone to take a chance on him." And it's what you do with those chances. And I think it's not being afraid to fail, Deb. I think we make things bigger in our heads than oftentimes they are. And most times people just want somebody that's going to make a decision. People want somebody that's just going to take a chance. And people want somebody who's just going to be genuine. And when they don't know the answer, they say, I don't know the answer. And that's always just the type of leader I've tried to be. And with Amazon, it was a very different company when I joined. At the time that I joined, Jeff was still in charge. It was smaller in a lot of ways. But I didn't know if I was going to succeed. And that was all my wife. She's the one that said, let's take a chance. Let's move out to Seattle. Let's do it. And without her backing me, it wouldn't have made sense. So I think it's been one stepping stone to another, and having the right foundation behind me that pushed me when I needed to push, when that challenged me in the right way, that told me if I was being irrational, and then also made me just sort of grow in my career. But having that initial foundation from my family, and like I said, that board of directors perspective, I have great mentors and I have great friends. And the only reason I'm anywhere where I am today is because of all of that.
Oh, there's so many things that struck me as you were telling me that, and I have a short message with my audience in case you missed it. So people took a chance on you because they saw potential. So if there's anybody else out there that they can remember somebody that took a chance on them and they were better for it, pay it forward and believe in
Hmm.
others and take a chance on others, because you never know, they might surprise you. So again, soundbite one today. But going back to, you mentioned it earlier in our conversation, and now, your board of directors, your cheering section, the person behind the leader is, there's just that
Yeah,
significant other. And occasionally I'll talk about my husband, Dan. We've been married for 35 years. And sometimes we
yeah.
scratch our heads like, you're still married to me, despite my craziness. But we were at a juncture. I had an opportunity for a promotion that moved us from New Jersey to Cincinnati, Ohio. And I remember
Hmm.
sitting at our favorite tavern. It was just after a hurricane, and everybody was without
Hmm.
power back in New Jersey, but they had power. And I remember, like, he was writing on the paper tablecloth, and pushed a button. It was a circle. He said, "We need a reset. We need a reset. Let's take this opportunity," because I was offered the promotion, to pick up
Yeah.
and leave. We both needed a reset in our careers, and it was the best thing ever because he was able to pick up and restart. It was very
Yep.
good for my daughter at the time who was still at home. The boys were out of the house. And from a career decision perspective, I grew so much and became the
Hmm.
leader that I am now. So having that significant other or mentors saying, let's just take a chance and do it, may be the best decision you'll ever make.
Yeah, and also just recognizing when a leader invests in you that it's a mutual relationship. I had a great mentor at Amazon who I still talk to this day, and I got passed up for a promotion, and I was really upset. And I went into his office and said, "Oh, this isn't fair. I should have gotten this." And he just looked at me and he said, "Oh, boohoo, you didn't get it." He's like, "Don't give them a reason to say they were right. Give them every reason to say they were wrong." And I think good mentors don't always tell you what you want to hear. And that was exactly what I needed to hear at that point because it completely changed my attitude. It was, you know what, you're right. I could sit here and be upset about this and prove them right, or I could continue to be who I am, and eventually it will work out. And eventually it did. And that time that I had to marinate, as painful as it was, got me the job that my vice president at the time called me and said, "I want you to go and do this." So it went from a job that wasn't quite as visible to one that all of a sudden was extremely visible, in charge of a worldwide team. So things happen for a reason. People look at these CEOs, these people who are accomplished, and say, "Oh, it's easy." No, there's tons of failure. There's tons of misses. It might look easy on the resume, but that's because I failed so many times.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, this really goes to one's mindset, or like you said, having a good support system to say what needs to be said when you don't want to. And I
Yep.
too recently had an opportunity for some work, and I thought I knocked it out of the ballpark and wasn't chosen. And I will tell you, I had a very short pity party, but out of it
Yep.
came, but we want you to do this instead. And it was
Hmm.
so much better to leverage my skills. I'm actually getting excited about this opportunity when I didn't get
Yep.
that. So again, it's how you look at things. A door shuts or just kind of closes, but boy, oh boy, if you've got the right mindset, so many others may actually open up for you. So
Yep.
I want to get a little bit though into your line of work. I don't know anything about the
Yep.
toy industry. I mean, I am familiar with electronics manufacturing and different
Uh-huh.
types of processes, but when it comes to the toy industry, product safety, just I mean, what is unique about your industry that we have to think about what's unique, what's different, what's challenging. I would just love to know a little bit more, especially in the quality space.
Yeah, I'm going to unpack that question two ways because
Sure.
one, uh, Melissa and Doug is wooden products. Wood is challenging. When you think about wood, a tree could be from the same forest, but it's still two different trees. And how do you manufacture quality into wood that is going to be potentially passed on for generations? We try and say that our toys are timeless toys, and down in my basement we have toys that my now 18-year-old niece had when she was younger that are Melissa and Doug toys. So wood manufacturing is a little bit different because you're dealing with wood sourced from different places, and how are you building structures. You're not a simple plastic injection mold that goes and you do your CAD designs and you create your tool, and then it's just kind of repeat. You're sometimes taking a piece, gluing it together, letting that sit. You're dealing with humidity based on different cycles of when something's shifting. So there's a lot of variables that come into play. You're dealing with hand tools. As much as we try to automate things, our products are have a much more delicate touch to them, I would say, because it's not simply that here's your pellet of plastic, melt it, here's your mold, cut it, churn it out. It's just a different mindset. The toy industry has evolved so much over the years. If you remember back in the early 2000s, there was sort of quote unquote the year of the recall with Thomas the Train and lead in paint and everything that was happening. there were a lot of parents that had major concerns. And that's why the Consumer Product Safety Improvement Act was passed. It was a major bipartisan bill. Then the Consumer Product Safety Commission comes in and says, how are we going to evaluate these products? What is the right amount of lead in the product? Because lead has capabilities that matter for a product. A screw with lead in it matters from a performance perspective. Phthalates. We hear this word phthalates all the time now, and PFAS and forever chemicals. And what does flame retardants do to a kid versus what doesn't it do? When's it applied in furniture versus it good in a car seat? So there's all these different nuances to product safety that come into the equation. And it's not just the US. There's the EN standards, and then there's all these different requirements in even Canada and Quebec for how we think about labeling things. And they want to make sure everything is in French for one of their new bills. So there's a lot that goes into it, Deb. But at the end of the day, in the role that I sit in, my main job is to make sure that when a product gets signed off and is designed and developed, that it meets all those standards. And we take the mental model of we're going to go to the strictest standard and we're going to apply that because we believe that's best for our customers. And a lot of people in the toy industry do the exact same thing because, as I talked about earlier, like, you're dealing with play, you're dealing with kids, like the population of who you're dealing with and selling your product to, that's our future. And so you have to get it right. And so regulations aren't a bad thing. Regulations are a good thing. It's just a matter of how do you navigate the regulations in order to sometimes make a product. Because sometimes, you have some random town council in some random city that says, oh, no, none of this. And it's like, how do you navigate all of that? So we have robust controls up front. We have people working in the factories with us. We sit in standard setting meetings. So it's just sort of getting really smart people who are far smarter than me, who sit in these meetings all day and understand the rules and regulations. And then we do our best to meet them. But it's tough. The only other industry that's harder is probably the baby industry. Just because the baby industry, you have to make a $20 car seat that still meets all the requirements it needs to meet for safety. So it's an amazing learning experience. But what's amazing about the juvenile industry, even the toy industry, is you have people who deeply care. Like, these are toy people, and if you ever have an opportunity to go to a toy fair or a baby fair, like, people are so excited about their products. And people love their products, and people want to show their products, and people care. No one's out there to make a bad, unsafe product. Everybody wants to just have a product that people like and want to play with, and so it's a special industry of people who commit their careers to working for it. There's people that have worked at Fisher Price and then went and worked at Hasbro and then went and worked at Moose Toys and then went to work at Lego, and it's because they love the industry so much.
Mm. I'm getting excited myself. I just didn't know all of this about the industry. So, I've been trying to think about what my next question is for you, and it may be just a little bit away from technically what you do,
Yeah,
but I guess, you've been in a lot of leadership roles, and again, you're, at this place as well. Sometimes people, when they get into these leadership roles, they kind of miss the bigger picture here. And I know you've talked about what you do, you bring joy to children and families, etc.
yeah.
But have you ever been at a place in your career where you could sit back and say either I've arrived or my team has arrived? I've done everything I can and now they're performing, or a customer just says something absolutely outstanding that just says, okay, I'm where I need to be in my career. I'm doing what I have. I just would love a moment for you because I think that's so important when people are trying to climb the corporate ladder and it's about this activity and that promotion. Sometimes we forget to just step back and say,
Yeah.
I've had an impact or my team has had an impact. Any such moment for you?
Yeah, I mean, I struggle a lot with imposter syndrome, to be perfectly honest. I think all leaders do to a certain extent. Like, do I belong? But I'll give you one event that I felt was really impactful, and one thing that I was especially proud of, and the work the team did. So Back when I worked at Amazon, we had a partnership with Worldwide. Safe Kids Worldwide is a tremendous organization. They do a lot of work on sort of injury prevention and how do we remove unnecessary injuries from the household. And so we did a great partnership with Safe Kids Worldwide and the American Academy of Pediatrics in Chicago at their headquarters. And we did a massive car seat event and check where we donated car seats. I'm a certified car seat technician, so I can install car seats. But we did this event at the AAP, and it was, you know, Amazon, it was Safe Kids Worldwide, it was the AAP, and we gave out over 60 car seats to families in need. And we didn't get anything from it. It wasn't that there was this massive publicity or this great thing. It just was the right thing to do. And then we sort of parlayed some of that work into adding on a right seat campaign on one of like the Amazon search pages. So when you would go and look if a car seat was the right seat for your child, you'd be able to find that. And when you think about the reach of that company, being able to have that sort of impact to those people was just a real special moment of saying, we had people and the right idea, and we're able to build something that hopefully really helped, some people. And that to me was probably one of the more special experiences I've had as a leader, because it wasn't me. My team deserved all the credit. It just was the fact we could get it to the finish line was really, really pretty great.
Yeah. Yeah, really knowing what the outcome is and why it matters. Because, we can
Yeah.
meet our financial objectives, our quality objectives, and check the box. And those lagging indicators are nice, but when we can realize our purpose, bringing smiles
Hmm.
to people that they can feel safe and secure, that's really what it's all about. And I think a lot of leaders miss
Yeah.
that is, I use the word peace of mind, seeing families happy, that they can ensure
Yeah.
safety for their children versus we reached our numbers this month, high five, got your bonuses. At the end of the day, that really doesn't matter.
It, anytime that I go into a retail store with my boys, my little guy, my 4-year-old, anytime he sees a Melissa and Doug product, he says, Dad, come here. And he points. He's like, that's Melissa and Doug, and I'm like, yeah, it is, buddy. Like that's a special thing too. Like that's a real special thing for me. Getting to see the products come to life on shelf and having your kids point to something that the team has worked so hard on to deliver.
So I am also always in pursuit of knowledge and insight because some of the work that I do, I'm sometimes called to drop into an organization and help them with a particular
Hmm.
business area. I could be an interim quality leader. I could be helping them with their saving customers, root cause analysis, sometimes a recall,
Yeah.
something like that. But I also want to just make sure I'm still current. And so for you as a leader, I'm just wondering, what are some of your challenges or what keeps you up at night that, you continue to worry about and you carry a heavy burden on your shoulder? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think with as any company grows, it's how are you scaling without losing the identity of the company.
Mm,
It's how are you continuing to make sure that you're delivering high quality when you're launching in new marketplaces. It's okay if we're going to launch this product in Japan, that's a whole different set of requirements, and so it's creating the right infrastructure. For me, sort of my role is twofold. First, it's how am I an executive managing the business of Melissa and Doug? And then it's the second fold of how am I managing my team and making sure that they're feeling supported. And I think one of the things that sort of eh, keeps me up at night as a leader is making sure that the team remains challenged and the team continues to feel like they can grow and that we're supporting them. And then how are we as the collective leaders supporting the organization and career development and growth? Because when you have engaged employees and when you have engaged people who believe in what you're doing, your output's going to be so much higher. And so I've always tried to run under the model that look, it's the team's success and it's my failure. And when you have engaged employees in that regard and you're building culture in the right way, everything else is sort of going to work itself out. And so what keeps me up at night is making sure that we're relentlessly focused on delivering for our customer, but also that we have that passion and that curiosity and we continue to develop in a way that everyone is thriving because it's just a different flywheel. And when that flywheel is working, everything else is working. And I think that that's sort of the way that I think about it.
So I knew when I met you, I had to have this conversation and bring it forward. And I will just share with you probably that last soundbite was probably one of the best of the entire show. I'm so grateful you took a chance on me and said, let's connect and then let's bring this conversation forward. So, personally, I want to thank you for dropping in on the show, but I want to give you the floor maybe one last time if there's any parting thought for other C suite leaders or those of tomorrow or how best to get a hold of you. I'll give you the floor one last time.
Yeah, no, Deb, again, this has been an absolute delight for me. You know, I'm where I am just because people took a chance on me. And if I could say one thing to other leaders, it's be engaged with your people. We sometimes walk around on the executive level and sometimes forget about what the random person who's just starting their career is doing. And it means a lot if you just go up to them and you say hello. And I think remembering where you came from is real important. It gets hard, and everybody wants your time, and everybody wants your energy, but being really present with your people, and it's something I have to be constantly cognizant and aware of. Um, is just something that really means the world to them. And I remember once a leader said to me, um, "Mark, it's fine if you cancel a meeting once. If you cancel a meeting twice, okay. But if you cancel a meeting a third time, that person that reached out to you isn't going to reach out to you again." And so I think it's just important that you might have someone who's junior in your staff reach out, give them 10, 15 minutes. Um, you're going to get more from that conversation than they're certainly going to get from the conversation with you. So that would be my one parting, I guess, a word of advice. I'm on LinkedIn. Love to meet new people. This has been an absolute privilege for me, Deb. So I can't thank you enough for letting me join. And again, I love what you're doing. You're truly helping a lot of people. So I appreciate everything. And this has been just a great Friday for me and a great conversation.
Mark, thank you so much. You as well, been a great guest. I want to wish you well and your company and your team much success and just thank you again. So take care.
Thanks. Okay.